2, 3, 4.
Shoo up, my sugar, shoo up, my little butterbean.
Down, diddy, down, 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 diddy, diddy, down, diddy, down, down, do I do it, down, diddy, down, down, you're so pretty, pretty, down, diddy, down, down. Ain't it funny how fun love can be? Diddy, 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 down, diddy, down, 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 diddy, diddy, down, diddy, down, down.
And the Norfolk Knitting School is back in session for another class. I have a joke. I didn't get any complaints on the emails, so I'm going to start it with another. Actually, I don't have many of these. There's very few knitting jokes. Why did the lady farmer give up knitting? Why? Because she felt it was a sin to throw her pearls before swine. And I think pearl, P-U-R-L, I think the pearls we deal with here, I think that's, I'm guessing, I don't know, you know, I've got to look that word up. I've got to look that up because I don't know, I often wondered, because it's not spelled the same, of course, but I wonder where the origin of that word is, pearls and pearls. All right. Now let's see, I want to go here. If you remember last time, I had enlarged on graph paper one of the patterns in this book, and I said I thought it would be something nice for a scarf. Instead of just being stuck with garter, because you can't have something that was going to roll. You can't use stockinette on a scarf because it will roll up, the edges will roll up. But this, so here's what I did. I made this, and I really should have made it in a larger, with a bigger, a bigger gauge and a thicker yarn. But you can see, there it is. So there's the two, these two oh no, sorry, good Lord. See, because the smoothest is the stockinette. So here's the stockinette here, and this, and this. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you a question as to why this is not rolling up, and I'm going to let you think about the answer. The other cool thing about some of these knit and purl stitches is that it's reversible, because sometimes you see people with cables in scarves, and oh, great shot, my dear girl. Katie does a wonderful job. But with this, when the scarf turns around, you'll see, you won't see that ugly back side of a cable. But I've got to be honest with you, I really had to pay attention when I was doing this. I really, really did. When you have these repeated knit and purl stitches, like, oh, the answer is that you've got this. It's true that this is, this is knit, this is a stockinette here, but because of the way it's broken up, it's not going to roll. And I just think it looks really good. And I started another one, and it's kind of interesting. Well, I'll talk about that later. So this was the one. I finished this one, and I wish I had made it a little bit big. But I really had to a couple of times go back because I had made mistakes. And so what you need to do, for example, this would be where you're starting here. If this were on your needle, you say, "My goodness, what do I do now?" So if you go back, if you turn it back and you say, okay, what I last did was I knit I have 3 stockinettes here. And I started off with 3 stockinettes here. So that's going to have to put me in one of these rows of 3, you see. Right here. It would have been one of these. So anyway, all right. So, and I made another one, although I don't have it with me, but I've got it in the book here. All right. The other thing I thought I would do, I thought I would go back and do some more of these stitches. I mean, I don't want to bore people, but on the other hand, sometimes people need to see things over and over again. See, if you don't take a class, whether it's here or in, pay and take it at a knitting shop. Like a book like this. Now Sally Melville is a very famous knitting designer, and the stuff is actually very, very simple. She has one book. Book 2 is called The Purl Stitch, And book 1 is called The Knit Stitch. It doesn't mean everything in here is purl, but she incorporates purl in these patterns. Well, what she does is she goes through is, if I can find an example here. Oh, you know, as she goes through each chapter, she shows you what you need to know. But I got to tell you, for me, you know, it says, you know, find the row of purl, picking up and knitting from purl bumps, or reading reverse stockinette stitch. Reverse stockinette stitch is the wrong side, the bumpy side of stockinette stitch. Now you know that. That's the purl side. In this chapter, it's used for edging to counteract the roll of the stockinette stitch pieces. Well, we had talked about that before. And then she's, you know, showing here how you pick up stitches. This is pretty obvious, but some of these other pictures, they don't do it for me at all. I find them, and then there's some here. There's, yeah, you know, there's text, and you know, for example here. Put right hand needle into this stitch below the bound off edge, draw through loop. Now I know what that is, but if I weren't a good knitter, you will have picked up and knit 2 stitches or quite close together, which will help close the hole, blah, blah. But to me, this is not, to see these stills and the text, I don't find that enough for me. So, you know, but like I said, I mean, when you become experienced, you do know what they're talking about. But if I were a new or an intermediate knitter, I don't think I could deal with that. So what I thought I might do is I thought I was being very clever here to put all these swatches on one needle, and in a way it was, because then they're all together and you can see them. And last time I gave a little quiz about about what stitches were which. So I'm just gonna take, this is, as you know, it's Garter. So let me just do this for you. Now these are both 7s, although they don't look like they're both 7s. This looks smaller somehow to me. So Garter is knit every row. So we'll just take a few minutes today and let you see me. I should probably go slower. I'm also going to show casting on again. I don't know if you remember from last week, I showed you a finishing for the end of a scarf that I thought would be interesting. And I'm going to, and I didn't show you actually how to do it, I just sort of showed it to you already done. All right, so, okay, now I'm back, and so I've got my Garter. You know, later in the class, I'm going to show you something that is not Garter. I got to tell you, I sat this morning and puzzled over this, and I thought, oh my God, you know, am I losing my mind? And I said, why is this not Garter? It couldn't be Garter because it was knit a row and purl a row with a row in between. But in a way, it looked like Garter, and I thought, it can't be. Well, I'll show it to you later. Okay, so we've got Garter, ribbing, stockinette. This is knit 2, purl 2, so over purl 2, knit 2. So see, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, and then I'm going to do another. So I've started my first row: purl, knit, and this I just love this stitch, but it's time consuming and it's a little bit tiring to do, but I don't know, I just love the regularity of it. This is seed stitch, pretty obviously named, aptly named, I should say. So let me go back and Garter, knit every row. And you know, I'll tell you, there's, I had mentioned Dee's Nimble Needles. They had a spring sale, but only lasted a couple of days. I don't know if any of you got over there. And it's kind of interesting group of people over there. There are about, I haven't been in there in a long time, but there used to be about, all right, there we are. There's our Garter. And of course, if you remember, I've got it here, I hope I do, yes I do. See, we were using we were using Garter here to make the, I think if you remember, I was making the letters, and there was this woman, I was knitting nonsense with a K on the nonsense. I was making these dishcloths, and so they all had letters. But my suggestion was to put this on a sweater, maybe for a child, and then you can always adjust the size. But again, if you're going to adjust the size of this, what I do, I know it's kind of a pain, but I would take the, excuse me, it's right here. See, no, it's not that. Oh, here it is. Here's the D. I would take this and I would try to I would scale it down. What do you do with a 5? It's an odd number, 6. But there's ways to do this. You'd have to take a graph paper and work it out. But you can do it. It just takes a little time, and it's a little bit tedious. And so over at this yarn shop, was a group of women who, rain, shine, winter, spring, hot, cold, they were in there, every day. I wasn't in there every day, but every time I went in there, working these elaborate, these people were really master knitters, and they spent big bucks. And they kind of ran the shop in a way. Sometimes they'd get up and they'd run the cash register. To me, it was a crazy situation for somebody to let that, the store get. But they had to have spent an absolute fortune in there. There's about 10 of them, and nothing tempted them outdoors. And and they made some things that were really fabulous. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know, seemed a little obsessive to me. And I know obsession, so. All right, here we go with our ribbing. Let's just go through and do this one for you. So I did want to show a cable stitch today. Okay, now see, when I picked these up, I didn't pick these all up the same. Sometimes if you're about to drop a stitch, you just get the needle in there any old way you can. For example, if you go back, like for example here, if I take this guy back and I want to put him back on the needles, I've got to get in there, and I think I did tell you the ideal thing is to use a smaller needle because it will go in easier. But it's all well and good if you can get in there and go right straight through. If you can do that, but if you can't, then you may end up with a situation where you've got something that's obviously twisted. So I'm going to now go this way. Okay, and you can put it back on the left-hand needle. I usually don't, but just to show you, okay, this one is going to be all right. This one is not. Straighten this guy out. So I hope I've encouraged people that this is not as hard as it may look. And maybe it's easy for me to say because I know the feel of I know how the needles feel in my hands, and I remember when I was learning, I was kind of but as far as what you're doing, you absolutely can understand this. Okay, and here's old reliable Stockinette. Now I've got this stitch is twisted over here. One thing I want to show you something. What a lot of people like to do is have a selvage stitch, and all that is that you just pull it over. You don't knit it. You don't knit it now, and you knit across. And you go all the way to the end. Now, my email is ambattistone@hotmail. I mean, that's the one I can get into without any hassle. So okay. Here we've got a little dipsy doodle. Oh, up, oh. Back. All right. Okay. Now I'm knitting to the end here. Now I'm going to take this back around, and over here now I'm going to slip this stitch. But it's been knit. I'm going to slip this stitch, and you don't have to do this. This just makes kind of a nice edging for you, because you will probably be joining these pieces together. So purl back. That's the way we do stockinette. Now, again, if any of you would like to come on, maybe you'd like your child to learn to knit. If you want to contact me about your child coming on and sitting with me here and learn. Okay, now I'm coming to the end here, and so I'm going to knit this, purl this, excuse me. And you see it makes sort of it makes kind of a loose little edge, but you would see that it makes kind of a selvage edge. All right, so, well, let me just quickly go through this because I've got to get to the next, and then I would slip it again. Now I may have to cut some of this yarn and knot it, which is not something that you would be doing or should be doing. Because whenever you knot something, you should, knot it at the edge, not in the middle of your yarn. Oh, there we go. I was looking at something, medieval armor that the knights wore, kind of interesting. That's called chain mail. Now, sometimes people write it M-A-I-L, but it's really M-A-I-L-L-E, maille, in French, which is the French word for stitch. And but it's not knitted. It's all rings that they put together. Apparently, people buy these chainmail clothing and wear it and go play. I mean, I when I went online, it was being sold, and I don't know. I guess people wear them when they play those games. I don't know. Okay. Now, see, I didn't have actually the right number of. I didn't have an even number of stitches on this because I was careless. So I've only got the one knit. Okay, so this is knit 2, purl 2. Now I'm going over the purl with purl and over the knit with knit. And hopefully I'm staying a little bit more, keeping a little bit more still for my camera woman. I'll find out later. Now remember, you can go on YouTube. They'll put the address on the bottom of the screen. I just go to YouTube, pardon me, and I search Battistone. I search my last name, but you can go on. They'll give you the proper way to go through from our website, and you can watch these over and over again. When you have your knitting in front of you, you don't have it in front of you now. You'll have it, and of course, the ever popular seed stitch. Knit over a purl and purl over a knit. Sometimes when in the Vogue knitting books, when they have drawings and diagrams and illustrations, I should say, of stitches, they sort of show, and they sort of have an arrow kind of weaving in and out it's kind of helpful. It shows the direction of your yarn, but I don't know. I don't think there's no substitute for seeing it done live. And purl, and I knit over the purl. Alrighty. Now, this aside. Okay. Now, if you okay, so now last week I showed this little, and again, I mean you would, well, I should have brought a crochet hook. This would get woven in. There's ways to weave in these strands where they're not as visible, and of course you really want to be sure and do that. These ones on the end you could probably take up the side, but you don't want people to see it. So I'm going to unravel this. We get down to these two. I'm going to take one apart and show you. But I just think if you had a series of these little at the bottom of the scarf, I don't know, I've never seen that, me personally. I did make a sweater for myself, a vest, with these on it, and I saw it in the pattern, but I've never seen a scarf done like this. So instead of just pulling out my stitches, I'm going to unknit them. Now, I was reading something the other day. I got to say, some of the craziest things. Actually, it was in this book, this Sally Melville book, and it had something to do with purling while you kept the yarn around your neck with the skein on the floor to create some sort of tension. And there's a picture in there, which I hope I can find, I should have marked it, of these Peruvian men knitting with the yarn around their neck. I don't know, not for me, but I guess it must work for them. I'm sure it's a time-honored. So I'm going to just unknit these, and you'll see when you go back, you'll see if you've got them in the wrong direction. I mean, I could take it off this way. I'll do some both ways. I don't know. It feels easier to go this way because these are purl stitches as part of the garter. That's a little confusing because it's all knit stitching every row called garter. I don't know why that is, but okay. So, and many's the time that I have unknit rows of stitches. There was a cardigan, and I don't know why I persisted with it, but I finally did make it. I finished it. I don't know if there's something wrong with the pattern, but I thought I would lose. This is many, many years ago. I thought I would just go crazy with this. It sort of had a kind of a pseudo or faux cable pattern on the top, like from the bust line, or from the armhole up, I should say. And I think it was Stockinette. Oh my goodness. All right. So it would have been faster for me to, okay, so taking these off. You know, I'm someone who's very easily bored, and when I'm working like this, I'm thinking, oh my God, are people just saying, oh, this is dreadful, this is dreadfully boring. But, you know, hopefully you don't see it that way. Okay, so now I'm getting down here to one more row to go. And to tell you the truth, I really don't want to. I was saying I could have just pulled these off, but you know, this yarn, I remember telling you, this is not a tightly twisted yarn, as you can see here. So that, I didn't want to get into, now, don't think that you have to, if you make a big mistake on something and you just rip the whole thing out, and again, I have done that, we have all done that, all knitters have done that many times. Do not think that that yarn cannot be used. Now let's say you're, okay, hold on here, let me get this guy out. All right. Okay, now I've got one more to go. And you know what I think this was? This was an increase over here. There was an increase done. That's why that's loose like that. Let's say that you have made a big mistake in part of your sweater. And your yarn's like this now. Well, what you do with this is you use this in your ribbing because it's already crimped up. Use this in your ribbing. The other time that you want to use something in ribbing is if we're talking about dye lot, not, you know, one of the classes. I think I talked about in the first class. If you cannot get the dye lot to match, not the color, the color's got to be matched, but the dye lot is a different vat of dye that they use to make that color, so it would be slightly different. And I believe I told you what to do is to work with two skeins, one on either side. And I sort of tried to show you, but I didn't really show very well. Sometimes people say if you have a different dye lot, you can put it in the ribbing. That's not wrong. Okay, now let's see here. All right, go here. Okay. See, this is kind of coming apart here in a funny way. Okay. All right, I think I need to go all the way across again. See, this is where it was attached. This is where I had pulled it tight. See, I pulled it tight in here to minimize this little. Okay. So they'll tell you to put it in the ribbing around the neckline and the cuffs and the bottom. You know, that's probably good advice. I guess it depends on how much of a difference there is. But if you are buying yarn and you can see that the difference is really strong, you might be better off to just say, hey, I better get something else here. All right, now, okay, yeah, see, I had knotted up here. Okay, all righty. All right, so this guy is about ready to come off. Sorry this is taking so long. I didn't realize I had so much on here. I just found out that in the loop, which was in Norfolk, I don't know what happened, why they left. I don't know whether it was the rent, it was too small, but they went all the way down to North Attleboro. So I don't know if any of you who are knitters had, I assume they let everybody know that was on there, although I didn't hear anything, that they let everybody, okay, all right, okay, there we go, all right, we've got a little dipsy doodle here, but that's all right. See, now I actually dropped a stitch here. See that? That's a dropped stitch. But I'm going to pick it up here. Once I pick it up here, okay, all right, let's put this to the side. Okay, now when you're knitting and you drop a stitch, now it can, the thing that you got to do is get that stitch, even though this belongs under there. See, it's under here, under here, under here, and here it's hanging out. If you grab that stitch, you'll be all right. You'll be able to go back and get it. Okay, so I'm going to now take this off, and I'm taking it out, and I'm going to start over. Now, there's just one little thing you need to know when you make these little points. Okay, so I'm starting here as I would to cast on, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to knit into this stitch. Well, here I go. I'm going to knit into it, and I'm going to knit into it again, and then I'll have two stitches. Sorry. Get in there, okay. So I'm knitting once, and I'm knitting again. And now there's two. And they look a little funny here, but that's all right. So I'll show you again. So I've got my knot here, tighten this up. So go in. And you know what you could even do with this? If you're worried about this looking a little messy, you could do this. I just happen to have these size 7s here. You could start with a smaller needle, like one size down, and it would make a tighter So I'm going to knit once, get in there, okay, and then I've got one, I'm going to go back into the needle as if, there it is, I mean into the stitch, and two, okay, all right, so that's, yeah, so that's not so bad. All right, now over here, now I'm going to start my increases. So I'm going to do this again, essentially. Now, when you, so I'm going to go here, there's my increase, and I knit. Okay. Now, when you're working on a sweater, and I know this still looks a little funny down here, but it's correct. When you're working on a sweater and you're doing increases and decreases, what you really should do is, for those of you who are knitters, and you maybe you know this, is, but you know, I didn't know it, is you really should not do those increases and decreases right on the edge, unless it's for an armhole, which I'm going to show you in a second. You really should do it one stitch in, because it gives you that little bit on the end that's going to be flat when you go to put your pieces together to make your sweater. So here now. Okay. Now I'm not going to go, I don't want to, you know, this, I don't want to be, like I say, boring is, it's horrible to be bored. I hate it. So I'm not going to, oh, well, see, there's a, all right, here, oh, we got it back. There we go. All right. Now, see, I didn't get this guy. I only got these. See, I only picked up these. So I got to still knit this last fellow here. There we go. There we go. Okay, so there we go. No harm done. So I'm not going to make it as deep as this one because I don't want to take up, you know, too much time here with this, but I think it is helpful to see this increase in there. Knit, knit, knit. So you see, I'm not doing that increase. If I did that increase on both sides, that would make a real steep, wide triangle. I'm just doing it on the one side. You know, you can, and you know, you have your practice yarn, so you can, you know, you can try doing that. I don't want to do that here on this because I wanted to just, well, show you what I had done. And really, this is a pretty, I mean, this is a pretty steep, I thought this was a pretty, you know, a pretty steep increase anyway. So there it's coming, and it looks a little messy at the bottom. Increase. There it is. And I think, you know, and so forth and so on. So now you're seeing, if you look at the bottom of this one, well, you know, this looks a little strange down here too. Let's look on the side here in the back. See, this is, you know, so don't worry about that. I mean, I do not know of any way to avoid that. Maybe somebody does. If somebody out watching does know how you avoid that little kind of messy start, please email me. Or better yet, come on the show. It's very nice. Everyone's very nice here. It's just a great place. The cable TV is just a great place. It's a great place. Even if you're just on the camera, you're not doing a show, everyone's very, very nice here. All right. So what I'm going to do now, okay, I made a little tiny one. I just didn't want to take too much time with this. So I'm going to now go over here, and I'm going to show you how it's attached. So all I do is I knit across. I'll do my increase. Because what you're going to do is you're going to have as many of these as you want. And they're going to be lined up on your needle. Increase. And I mean, you do have to have some dexterity to get in there and keep your stitches tight enough, and it will come with time. I think I told you about that the first sweater I ever made. My God, I mean, the color was ghastly. It was like something that, I mean, I don't think you'd see an 80-year-old woman today wearing that thing. It was awful. Okay, so now I join them when I've got them the size I want. Now, maybe you would want, a long one, a short one, and a long one. So I'm just going to show you how. So I'm just going to simply go right here, let this stay behind. I'm going to kind of hold it out of the way, and I'm going to knit right across. I want to pull it tight, and I go right across, and I just get rid of that other thread later. I go, and you see it just makes. And frankly, like I say, I have this vest. I don't wear it very much because I was kind of disappointed with the way the yarn knit up. I don't wear it very much, but the bottom of it I think looks very cool because I've got these triangles across the bottom. I just think it looks really, and there I am, and there is. So that was the yarn I knit, and there it is. Now, I don't know why this is looking so grim over here, but it does. I don't know why this is looking like this, but it seems to be. And I would probably, I don't know what I did here that made this come this way, but maybe it's just as well that you see that, mistakes do. And, on a scarf, you might not be bothered by that, or you might want to take it out, or you might want to go back and redo this. I think maybe I was pulling it too hard trying to show the stitch. That could be it. So that's that. All righty. So I think I think I'd like to just stop for a few moments because I've kind of come to a stopping point, if that's all right with everybody here in the studio, and we'll be right back. I'm going to start on something else.
Shoo-up, hey honey, shoo-up, shoo-up. Look, see, shoo-up, shoo-up. It's funny, shoo-up, wop, how silly love can be. Down, diddy, down, 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 diddy, diddy, down, diddy, down, down, do I do it, down, diddy, down, down. You're so pretty, pretty, down, diddy, down, down.
He didn't leave. Great. Good. Okay, now I've got this Sally Melville book, and I tell you, it's really a pretty remarkable book. And what I did was I saw something in here. I just thought to show you how she's illustrated the diagrams. And this is a slightly enlarged. I did this at home. Slightly enlarged page from here. Actually. No, oh, I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong, sorry. I'm on the wrong page. Somehow I got off, sorry. Saying, wait a minute, this doesn't look right. Okay, oh, here we go. Okay. Okay, and they're giving you an option here. So this is a man's classic ribbed pullovers. And they've shown you the option for a turtleneck, front and back. And this is the crossover V-neck, front and back. Now, when they say front and back, they don't mean that you've got the V going down the back as well. Oh, here, I'm going to use here. They think, they assume you understand that the back is this whole thing and the front is here. Now, what she's done is she's actually shown you where the decreases are. And and here's the length of the armhole. But what they've done here, now this, I don't know if you remember I told you that sweaters are essentially rectangles, the body of the sweater. You may cut in to make a set-in sleeve. But what I do, and a lot of people do, is they just make this straight edge, and then your sleeve is straight, and it goes right up against here. And see it, so they have I guess they're showing, well, they're showing two options here, 6 inches and 8 inches, which seems kind of shallow to me to, oh, I'm sorry, this refers to how far down the V starts. Sorry about that, because a 6 inch or an 8 inch drop in an armhole would be very, very tight, especially on a man's thing. And because here you're seeing, they're showing you the measurements for the different sizes. So it runs from 22 and a half. Sorry, Katie, I can get that. To 24 for the largest size. Here's the drop here. And this is the full, well, they're showing you the full length here. Increases here. And here would be your ribbing. Now, and also here would have been the ribbing. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that when you start a sweater. When you I don't even have a sweater with me today. Well, I sort of drew this thing here for you to see. Well, actually, let me talk about this first. On this one here, if we look at the instructions, okay, it says, here's how. Okay, so 1x1 edging, which is your 1x1 ribbing, with smaller needles cast on blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the smallest size to the largest size. Work, 1x1 rib for 6 rows. Change to larger needles and work 3x1 rib to so and so many inches from the beginning. That's one way to do it. And I think there's another way. When you want that ribbing at the bottom to be a little tighter. You want it to kind of come in. So you can do it two ways. You can use a smaller needle, which is what she's telling you to do here, and change to a larger needle, or you can go with the same size needle and add on that first row of stockinette for the sweater. Or in this case, this sweater is ribbed. So that's the 3x1 ribbing that you see there. And this isn't a regular, this is a crossover V-neck, and there's the 1x1, 1x1. And it looks kind of nice here. I don't know if you can see it, but you've got a knit, a purl, a knit, and knit, knit, knit. So the ribbing goes right down. The purl goes right down into the knitting. Or the purl goes right down into the ribbing. So I was going to start you on I was thinking about starting, this is just kind of a crude drawing here. But one of the things you can do, my plan was, I have smaller needles on the ribbing. This is ribbing here. This is the larger needle, this is the stockinette. Now, I'm showing you some here. This is where your ribbing ends. So you have knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. Now I'm kind of bringing this out because you're going to be working with the larger needle. But and this is sort of like what I just this is what I just showed you. This is 3-in-1. So that's what was actually on what I just showed you. And the sweater I have, the vest I have in mind for us to do together, I had planned on either something like this or some other, or maybe some other arrangement so that you had this continuation. Now, if you just wanted to do stockinette, this is what it would look like here. Now, at the top of this particular vest, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the smaller needle, and this is actually a pattern. I don't have, well, I might be able to find it at home, but it's so easy to make, and it's just great, and it saves you an awful lot of trouble, which I'll explain in a second. So I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to kind of curve this in to show that we're going to be on a smaller needle up here, and we're going to go back to the ribbing. Now actually, let me drop back here before I forget about this. When you start your ribbing, what you want to do is if you're doing the back, you always do the back first in case you make a mistake. That's just what everybody does. But when you go to make your front, you want to be sure that on the side, let's just assume we're looking at the side here. I'll do it up here. We're looking at the side. You want to be sure that, that your ribbing appears to go right straight across. So if this is the front and this is the back, you want to start your ribbing with a purl on the back and end your ribbing on the front with a knit, so that when it comes in here, it'll just be smooth. And many of the time, I have not paid attention, done that. And all right, so on this, so again, we're going to be stockinette. Let's just say that, unless you wanted to do something. And then you're going to go back here and do ribbing. And what this does, and what I'll do is before the next show, I'll get this. I'll do a miniature version of this for you. Okay, and that's really the way it should come out. So this is the same. Now what this does is this will pull in, so you won't need to cut in an armhole. Now a cut-in armhole is going to look like that. You're going to be decreasing, but this pulls it in, so you don't need to do that, and you just continue with your ribbing all the way up. And what happens is that not only did you not have to decrease, it'll be pulled in automatically. You've also got this finish. Now on a situation where you've got a cut-in sleeve, show here. Okay, so usually what you do is you usually go in about maybe an inch or two, an inch or two of stitches. And you can go straight up, or you can decrease and make a curve, which is a little more work because you do have to kind of pay attention. But then, because let's say this is stockinette, you can't leave this like this. You've got to put your ribbing. So I'm going to put my ribbing here. If you can kind of follow this, and it's got to kind of curve around. You've got to rib this. But with this, the one that I thought we would do together, this is all finished. So no problem with that. So we're going to look at that next time. And okay, let me show you one other thing. I think we just have enough time. And I'm going to be, I got to be honest with you. I was really having a bit of a hard time with this myself. I was scratching my head doing this. Now this is from the Knitting Stitch. This is another one that oh, here it is. Is this it? Yes. Okay, here it is. Now I had made a big version of this. I don't know where it went. It got away from me somehow. I'm sorry. I apologize. But I made. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, maybe it's here. It is not. Okay. I don't know what happened. This happens to me all the time. Things get away from me, and I don't know. I thought I like this. I hope Katie can see this. I did some of it. Okay. I thought this looked great. I thought this looked great for a scarf or great for a sweater. And I thought it was easier than that other one with the flat, with the rounds, the sort of the polka dots, if you will. Now this stitch here, this is, okay, so this is what I've done. So I went twice this is multiple of 10 plus 3, and in this book they show you the plus 3 over here for some reason. So it's understood that you're going to have 3, 3, okay, and then the stockinette in here, and then you start over again with this. And there's a 3 here, and then, so this is what I've got. So here's 3, and this smooth, this is the stockinette. This means knit on this side, purl on the wrong side. This means you're going to have the little bumps, purl on the right side, knit on the wrong side, and then you've got an extra row in here. Now, I gotta say, this to me looked exactly like garter, and my garter is over here. Sorry about this. Oh, here we go. Good Lord. It's the revolt of the, all right. Now, here's my garter. Now, when you look at this, you can see, and of course it's different colors. Is that okay? Well, let me hold this up a little bit better. There we go. All right. There we go. This is better. You can see that this looks a little bit more open. And granted, it's different yarn. I'm sorry about this, Katie. But it looks to me like it's garter. But it isn't, because I knitted on one side and I had this extra row in between. So I thought that was kind of an interesting. So let me go here, and I'll work on this for a little bit to close. So now I know I'm on, I've got 4 of these, and this is my wrong side, by the way. What I did was I started with the wrong side, so I would get this nice thing here at the bottom. But again, on a scarf, it's going to be twisted around, you know. And again, this is a reversible stitch, so it's okay for a scarf. So I'm on. Now, another thing that I didn't do, which I told, oh, wait a minute, this last stitch is undone. Another thing that I told you all to do, which I didn't do, was to count my rows, and I thought, oh, ha, 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 I'll be fine. Well, I wasn't fine. I had a little bit of trouble with it. Just as I'm having a little trouble here with this now. Get over there. All right, here we go. Okay. So somehow this last stitch wasn't knitted. I don't know why, or it came loose somehow. And this is that dreadful bamboo that has all the loose threads in it, so that's something that you don't want to get involved in, but I... All right, there you are. Okay. All right. So that's, okay, so that shows us here stockinette, the purling and the stockinette in between, and these two here are right here, 6. So 3 and 3, and that's how you make your repeat. And then you go again. So I'm going to be back here. I know I've got 3 purls, and as you begin to, like I said earlier, as you begin to do a pattern over and over again, you'll see, and there's that, so, okay, so I'm on the wrong side, purl on the wrong side, so that would bring me probably right here, knit, on the wrong side, okay, there I am. Now I see I'm coming up with a purl. I know I'm going to need to go back and knit it as they take them as they come. You just have to pay attention when you do these, and if you're you know, if you're watching the television or you're listening to something and you know, and you don't, you know, you're not paying attention, you know, you will run into. But because of what this is, you can just go right back. I showed you how you just unknit. Okay. Now I'll have to. Now this next one, this next row, I'm going to knit straight across because I've got my. No, actually, I've got to go 5. Got to go again because I've got 5 of these little ridges, and here I only have 4. So I need to do a little more. You know, I thought I was going to show you something. I don't think I brought the book with me, and I don't think I have one in here. But there was a photo of some lace knitting, and I'm going to show that. Oh, actually, I think we've got something in here. There's lace in the back here. And you know something? I don't need to lose my mind this way. This is all those. I mean, this is really. I mean, some people like to do this. I have never done it, but I don't need to go crazy quite this way. I mean, look at this, and this is all done. This is done with probably mohair, and you can see how fine this is. Now you drop a stitch. Look at this. You drop a stitch here, you're done. So I mean, I don't mean to discourage anybody. You know, you may find, here's another one, look at this. I mean, you may find that this is your cup of tea, but I mean, it's really, they're really they can really be very, very challenging. I guess these are supposed to be little bells or something. So I think that's just about, the end of our time together. And thank you so much. I want to thank Dawn. I want to thank Katie. Katie does a fabulous job. Believe me, you would not be getting anything out of this if it weren't for my dear Katie, who is able to get these great shots of my knitting. And directing is Mr. Steve Gay. So thanks to everybody, and we'll see you next time on the Knitting School.
My bee, shoo up, my sugar, shoo up, my little butter bean.
Down diddy down 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 diddy diddy down diddy down down do I do it down diddy down down. You're so pretty down diddy down down. Ain't it funny how fun love can be? Diddy 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 down diddy down 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 diddy diddy down diddy down down.